not my problem. It's not my problem.
All right, we're going live. So yeah, let's continue our off. I wonder at FCS what are the best
parameters?
No, best stadiums. I'm curious.
Does FCS have a? I know if you want to go FBS, you're like that's part of it, like right, like your stadium has to hold a certain number of people. Is there any limit for FCS? I don't think there's any parameters, right?
I highly doubt it. I think at FCS they're basically like, if you're willing to go and lose money every year and be a football program and give scholarships, you're in, baby. Because it can't be a moneymaker. I mean, you know who probably does make money? North Dakota State, because they keep winning the championship. So they probably get that TV money. Was my guess.
Our guest just messaged me and said he could join if we would like.
Oh, okay, great.
You're 100% right. But I also think like a lot of those things that dial into those guys too. Like, remember, like North Dakota State, what else is out there, right? Like South Dakota State, what else is out there? The money gets spent there because like, here we go, you know?
No doubt.
They're the only, they're the only show in town.
South Dakota State football team. Curious. Let me see here. It's pretty nice. South Dakota State's pretty nice.
Dude, Montana.
Bowl.
Phenomenal.
We gotta share. Since we're on this wild topic that has nothing to do with anything. It's great.
What do you mean?
Fun.
This has everything to do with the kids of today.
Let me see. How can I get a better view of this? Let me see. You can see it right on the screen. Let's see.
What's that? That's what?
This is South Dakota State, not North. But I'll probably end up being frozen.
Well, who was just what was the
pretty nice? They got like VIP. Look, they got a jumbo.
Listen,
it's pretty nice.
Anybody who's from New Jersey, if they've been to Mount Olive got a jumbo and that's seating too, which is incredible for high school.
Wow, if you go to high school, or if we're going to high school, we could show those.
I mean, look, or you could do like, that's different. But like, look here, I saw a thing the other day too, like colleges that FBS schools that play in pro stadiums.
Have you seen this one? That's where Kyler Murray played.
Oh yeah, but that's a multiple districts playing at one place. You know what I mean?
No, I know Allen's only one. Allen is just for Allen. Is that crazy? You're right. A lot of times in Texas, that is the case. Hold on.
Which, dude, what's wrong with that? Like,
let me. How come I can't show it?
It's because people in New Jersey are so damn territorial.
Let me see if I can share it now. I think Coach is on here too. Hold on. Let me. I want to see if I can. Have you seen Allen Stadium, dude?
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. That's it right there. Yeah, and they only Allen plays there. That's crazy, dude. For high school.
Yeah, look, and to be honest, like we know the best football comes from certain states, but like when it comes to that stuff, like Texas takes it. Like their facilities, I think for high school guys, phenomenal, right? Because Florida don't have that stuff.
No, we don't. All right, let's bring Coach in. What's going on, Coach?
What's going on? How are you guys?
Good. What's going on?
Sorry I'm a little late. I run a company called Kiddo Kinetics. We do some kids-based stuff in Orlando, so I was scrambling around with that. So sorry I'm a little late, but glad to be here.
Coach, you're good, buddy. You're all right. We just appreciate you making some time getting on, and we can pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Glad you guys invited me here.
We were just whipping through because we were talking offline while we were waiting, and we were just whipping through some of the FCS stadiums, like which ones were nice and which one what were, because we were talking, because I played at UConn back when it was It was just transitioning, but we're still FCS.
Okay.
And we had the 18,000 seats on one side, and then it looked like you would go into like a youth football stadium on the other side. It was hilarious.
Which is actually an excellent transition for Coach, because I mean, look, like he played at the highest level, University of Miami. Like when it came down to stadium wise, which one did you enjoy the most, and which was the toughest?
Yeah, so toughest, I would say Nebraska. And I didn't play that game. Brad Kaya played that game, but I remember when we went to Nebraska, I know there's an old rivalry between Miami and Nebraska. Mark Rick's from Nebraska, so there was some, family stuff there. And at the time, they had a really good run game. I can't remember who their running back was. Abdul was his last name. I know it starts with.
Oh yeah. Abdullah, maybe. What is it? Amir
yeah,
Abdullah.
And they had the first round defensive end, Randry Gregory. That was really good. So that team was good. And I remember every time, they got a 3-yard gain, I was thinking that they were scoring a touchdown. The crowd erupted every play. It was definitely something interesting. And it wasn't hostile to a sense to where like Florida State, right? Like when you walk into Florida State, they're cussing you, you probably get the middle finger, maybe spit on, like it is what it is. But like Nebraska, they were nice. They were like, we wish you guys the best. We hope everyone has a great game. Like we're like, what? Like this is not how.
This ain't like this ain't hostile territory. Like
at all. But they loved Cornhusker football. They screamed every play, no matter if it was a big play or even a 3-yard gain. So that one to me was very unique. But I say to me the nicest stadium is definitely the Hard Rock. I mean, it's an NFL stadium. It's a pro stadium. I know they have gotten better because for a while it was kind of hard on them. They've gotten better with the field. That was one of my biggest issues playing at the Hard Rock was that they would change the middle, right, of the turf from the Dolphins to the U logo. So sometimes if it rained that night in between, the place got kind of shifty. I remember playing Syracuse. There was a whole cube of dirt that came up because I slipped and fell. But I think they got a lot better. But I would say at least the fan experience, right? It's nice. The bathrooms are really cool. It's funny. I hear a lot of fans talk about the old Orange Bowl, and one thing that they praised the Hard Rock is the bathroom specifically. They talked about how terrible, the old bathrooms were. There's just pee and everything everywhere.
Which is hilarious.
Like,
It's so funny.
These bathrooms are so nice. Like they're like, we missed the Orange Bowl, the old Orange Bowl, but they were just like the bathrooms in the Hard Rock are really nice, and I love the experience. So I'd say as a player playing in that stadium, and obviously as a fan going, that to me is one of the best experiences for college.
It's awesome.
Cool. Coach, what we usually do is we have the guys that come on talk about like kind of their journey of playing and what you're doing now. If you could kind of like dive into that, to like your whole, your kind of journey as a player, at Miami and now what you're doing as a QB coach and all the stuff you're doing. Talk about that.
So my journey started off in Mobile, Alabama. It's funny because I'm in Florida and there's not a lot of youth tackle football. And in Alabama at 4 years old, we had the helmets on, shoulder pads, not the helmets. So like very used to physical contact. But started off young playing down in Mobile, we were the Bayou, then moved to Mobile, was a 2-sport athlete. So one thing, besides me being a fan of just Miami football growing up, one thing that made me go to Miami was the fact that they were one of the only big D1s that let me play both baseball and football. So my freshman year, I played some baseball, but there was some stuff where like the baseball team wanted me to go to the summer league. And I was like, well, I can't really be doing summer league and be focusing on football because at the end of the day, football's paying my scholarship. You guys aren't. So I'm not going to sit here and pay this tuition that I don't have to play baseball. So I wound up sticking with just football. We had the coaching change. That took a really interesting impact on my life because when Rick came, and there's an article in the Miami Herald about it, when Mark Rick came, after the spring, we had Brad Kaya. It was myself, Vinny Testaverde Jr., and then one more other quarterback. And at the time, they knew they had Brad. So like, hey, we're set with our number one. We're basically going to recruit our number two. And Rick sat me down. He was like, hey, man, like, I think that you could be a good player. But he was like, I just don't think you fit my system. Like, I think you should go somewhere else. And I remember that was the first time I've ever heard a coach really be honest, because there are certain coaches that they'll just kind of lead you along and not really tell you anything. And then he was the first one to really like set me straight. And then for me, that's why I tell a lot of guys, like, you got to understand the mindset of your coach, right? I had to understand that when I had James Coley was all about change the game, make a play, right? He wanted us to extend plays, throw off platform, things like that. With Rick, he was always about minimizing risk. Like, it's okay to take a sack. It's okay to throw it away. It's okay to take the check down, right? He used to praise us. He used to praise us more in practice for hitting a check down to a running back or tight end than he did throwing a post or a go. And that's because he knew how hard it was for you to discipline yourself to go to 1, 2, now back down to 3. And that was the side of the game that Rick really helped me with. But it took for me to realize these are my mistakes, right, and kind of get over that. So there's a lot of stuff I give Rick for, just really understanding how to play the game, not just, hey, you're an athletic guy, but actually how to play the position at quarterback. You know, that was one thing that I tell a lot of my young guys, like, if you're athletic, that's cool, but learn how to play quarterback and then let the athletic ability kind of take over when it needs to. So kind of like you mentioned, I played at Miami. After that, I spent a year on staff with Diaz at Miami. I was in the recruiting department. Then I went to Georgia, where I was with Todd Monken, Buster Faulkner, and the gang. It was funny. Todd recruited me when he was at Southern Miss as the head coach, and Buster recruited me when he was a quarterback coach in Middle Tennessee. So I had really good relationships with both of them prior. So it was just a funny situation. I wound up being with them. And then after that, I was like, well, I learned a lot. You know, there's a lot of X's and O's, game management. But I was like, my biggest thing was that, you know, if someone throws a bad ball, I don't necessarily know how to fix that, right? I know how to tell a kid, hey, this is the progressions. I know how to tell a kid, hey, this is the coverage. But like, if he spikes it or if he overthrows it, like what's wrong with him fundamentally? So that's what really pushed me not to do more of my own personal training by myself, but shift over to QB country. So that's who I'm with. David Morris is our head guy. He actually trained me in high school. You guys will know some of his quarterbacks: Drake May, Bo Nix, Riley Leonard, Arch Manning, Deuce Knight, KJ Lacey. We have a ton of young guys that are really good. But in my league, it was basically me, McCarron, AJ was one of his guys, and Jacob Coker. So I remember growing up kind of training with those guys, and I saw how many guys he had either in the league or going into college. So I was like, let me learn from him. So I learned a lot. I'm still working with him. I trained primarily out of Tampa, but every 2 weeks I do go down to Miami. So because Emory, Judd, and Luke Nichols are all in QB country, whenever they're in Miami, they'll be training with me some whenever they're available. So it's a really unique experience. Whether my kids go to another state, whether other kids, you know, wind up traveling to Florida, they're still going to get kind of the same training. So it's a unique system that we have. At the end of January, we'll do some, it's called a quarterback experience, but we do stuff with the Senior Bowl because they're in Mobile. Our head guy has a really good relationship with Jim Nagy. So we do some, you know, Senior Bowl QB experience type stuff that's really unique. So I really love the group that I'm with. And then outside of that, you guys can kind of see, we do the Rival Series. One thing that I'm trying to help high school kids out with, and it's really helping, especially for if you guys know any high school coaches. Right now we're working on Naples, Plant City, West Palm, and I'm trying to get Tallahassee, making it a 2-day camp, $40 a kid. The way we're going to structure it is Saturday, we're working with college coaches, obviously not D1, but certain level of college coaches that will be out there coaching the kids during skill drills, right? So receivers coach will coach the receivers, DB coach DBs, etc. Then on Sunday, right, everyone loves the 7-on-7 scene. I'm a big fan of it, but I'm always big on do it with your high school team, do it with the team that, you know, the college coach is going to see you come out and play with, right? So then on Sunday, it'll be a 7-on-7 competition, kind of best of the area, right? We'll have best of Naples, best of Miami, best of Plant, which would be like Tampa, Orlando, then we'll go up north. But we're trying to get teams and coaches involved. I'm even trying to do stuff where on that Saturday skill drills, right, we'll get it recorded so that these kids have film that they can send. Like I remember when I was younger, right, you pay $40 to $60, you go into these camps, you do your drills, and that help you get recruited. Well, now some of these camps are so big, right, they're invite only. So like some of these kids are good athletes, but they have no way of going to these camps. Certain camps, they overprice them and they do no recruiting for them, but they swear they're going to do recruiting for them. So that's kind of where it's like, I've been there. I know what coaches look for. I know how to get you the best bang for your buck. We're not going to sit here and charge you hundreds of dollars for recruiting. It's $40, and most of it's going to pay and feed the coaches and the refs. So that's really what we're trying to develop in the state of Florida. And hopefully, I saw you guys talking about Texas. I have some Texas connects. Hopefully next year we can broaden this out to Texas as well.
Cool. So, so you're working with QB Country? Is that the group that you work with? Okay. So they have like franchises all over the place, right?
Yeah. So we have Mobile, Birmingham, Atlanta, North Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Denver, Florida, New Jersey. We're moving. And what's crazy is he's turned more people down to be a coach than he has like said, hey, like I want you to come coach me. It's been more, hey, like, do you fit kind of what we're preaching? Because again, right, it's at this age, it's yes, you can teach them, but like the impact you can have on some of these kids' lives personally is also a big aspect. Like we, at the end of every session, we pray for our kids, right? I always tell the kids, you don't have to join in on prayer, but just know that I am going to pray for you if you guys. So it's like, it's a different type of bond that we try to build. So like the person you are is even more important than the quarterback coach that you are.
So what ages are you working with kids, from like young kids all the way up to high school, or?
Yeah. So right now, I try to stay at 10 and above. I'll do some younger kids, but my biggest thing is that, like, one, I don't want the parents out there because like it is costly to obviously private training. So it's like, I don't want the parent paying and the parents like, well, my kid's not doing this or that, or the kid's just like, he's more having fun with the game, right? I feel like by the time kids turn 10 to 12, especially nowadays, they really know whether, hey, I want to be a quarterback, right? I love football. At the ages of like 9 and 8 years old, they're more just having fun with the ball. So that's where I try to stay 10 above. If you got a young kid that's under that's super passionate, right? He's been doing, because I know some kids, right? They'll have those kids doing skill drills since they were 6 years old, ladders, all that stuff, right? If you have one of those type of kids that just is obsessed with football, I'll take them. But again, if you're
talking to a dad of one right here, bud. He's got a 9-year-old. He's got a 9-year-old that's been slinging this thing for years already.
So that's what I'm saying. There are certain kids, right? That's like, they've been doing this for a long time and they love it. And then there's other people that's like, oh, I want my son to be a quarterback. He hasn't really played football. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to sit here and charge you. And then like your son might not like it. He might like it. And it just becomes like, I wouldn't say an unpleasant experience, but it's like, you almost feel like it's a money drain.
Yeah,
That's not what I want.
He has no idea what throwing is.
They need to have a baseline ability to throw the football. You know what I mean? Because if they're coming to you like, I haven't even thrown a ball, that's gonna be pretty hard, you know. But you're right. QB is become it's funny because there's not that many spots, and it's like kicker in the sense that there's not that many spots, and everybody wants those few spots that there are. And amazing, like I noticed on the kicking side of like camps and stuff, like million kids go to the kicking camps, just like a million kids go to the QB stuff. And like they all think that they're going to have an opportunity, and they don't realize that most of them should keep their options open position-wise, even if they're playing QB. You know what I mean? Because making it as a quarterback at a college level, you got to be special, and that goes even to the D3 level. Like there's not that many spots, right? So if you end up playing college football as a quarterback, I mean, obviously you played at the highest level. So you're an elite level quarterback, but guys that are playing in college, period, there's not that many spots, and you have to be very, very good to be able to get an opportunity. And it's funny how all the parents try to just run
right away,
which is great for you guys, by the way. But, because
I think there's a
lot of them. But it is. Listen, talk about the unique skill set. I think because this is important for parents to understand the type of skill set that you think, and it's not just athletic ability and throwing ability, but the unique skill set that you think quarterbacks require in order to be successful.
Yeah. I would say number one, learning how to lead. You know, I think a lot of guys, right, when you look at old school leaders, especially like a lot of people think military style leaders, right? They're yelling, they're screaming, they're like faces bulging. And I'm always big on, you got to know how to communicate with your guys. Like prime example, right? Like Daryl Langham that has two of the biggest catches to me of our season, the Florida State touchdown and then the back shoulder 4th and long versus Georgia Tech. I would dog cuss him because Daryl would respond to me cussing him out. But like Amon Richards, I would never cuss Amon Richards out. And it had nothing to do with like me being scared of Amon or anything like that, but it was more like, that's not what motivates Amon, right? Amon, I'm more just like, yo, like when I throw it to you again, you got to catch it. And like, that was it. That's all I had to say to Amon, right? Because I know it pissed him off more for him than it did for me. You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to know how to lead your guys. Again, they're like offensive linemen, like I'm cussing them out sometimes. You know what I mean? It's just like, because that's what their coach does. So that's what kind of motivates them. So you really got to understand how guys kind of interpret what you say. I always say it's kind of like why most arguments start, right? It's not what you say. It's usually how you say it. You're saying it with the attitude. Are you saying it where I feel like I'm personally attacked, right? Like same way kind of with Jeff Thomas. Like Jeff Thomas was someone that felt like it was him against the world. So I knew when I talked to Jeff, I had talked to him very calmly, right? I wouldn't go up to Jeff running and cussing him out, because first thing he's going to do is like, man, forget this. I'm not listening to nothing you're saying. But it was like, I was like, yo, like, this is what we're out. Like, let's get better at it. You know, like, then he was like, okay, I got you. Like, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So it's like learning how to lead these guys, because everyone wants this huge vocal leader. And I'm like, yeah, there's times, right? There's situations. That's why I always talk about quarterbacks have to understand situational football. Like I always say, like, you can feel momentum, and there's certain drives, like I'll tweet, like, if this team does not score this drive, there's no way they're coming back. There's just no way, because again, you kind of got to understand how football flows. And so to me, I think really learning how to lead, and then learning situational football, right? I feel like more quarterbacks get judged off third down, red zone, and 2-minute drives. If you can be successful in those 3 categories as a quarterback, you're going to play for a very, very long time. And again, for the most part, I tell my kids first and second down, right? You're probably going to be running it some. It's probably 50-50 between like run pass, but that third down, those red zones, that's what we got to be great at. That's what we really got to excel, because if you're going 70% on third down and you're converting in the red zone, people are going to love you, because that means you're putting up a lot of points and you're doing your thing as a quarterback. So those are the 2 things I think quarterbacks really need to lean in on, is learning how to lead really their players, and then learning situational football, because I think that's the side of the game that, you know, a lot of guys talk about taking shots, but I really think about, like, when I break it down on, you know, what beats teams, I look at their third down conversion, I look at their red zone conversion. Then I look at, hey, did they score in the 2-minute drive? Because that's usually, if you're playing a good team, right? And we talk about in the NFL all the time, when you talk about like the Patrick Mahomes, the Tom Brady's, if it's an even score and they have the ball last, right, that 2-minute drive, they're going to go score. And that's just what makes them great, right? If it's a close game and they have the ball in that 2-minute drive, they're going to go score. And so to me, those are what quarterbacks really need to lock in on, is situational football and learning how to lead.
I think that's a real unique perspective, right, Dave? Like, we've never had anybody really kind of break it down to that level where you're talking about, look, like, be good on third down, right? Be good in the red zone, and then be good in 2-minute, right? So to break it down on that level, when you look, now we're talking to a lot of guys that, like we were just said, everybody wants to play quarterback, but like, look, everybody can throw, right? Because you go to these showcases, right, Dave? What's the first thing we always see? It's like, oh, everybody's throwing a fastball. Everybody wants to throw the deep ball. Everybody's running. It's like, look, buddy, everybody here can throw just as hard as you can, right? And then the accuracy part of it is usually kind of the next piece of the puzzle. But to understand, like you said, situational football, which is what football really is, right? Like, why were the Patriots so good for so long? They knew every situation, whether it happened one time in 10 years, they practiced it, they were aware of it, they knew how to do it. So when you can do that and really kind of express to these guys that, look, this is where you have to be really good in order to take that next step to be elite, I think that's a great perspective, like, that our people need to hear.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
As far as like the type of individuals that you think fit well at quarterback, I think that, basically any kind of individual could be a quarterback, as long as they do what you talk about, which is really have the ability to communicate. I'm not talking about the skills part and all that stuff. Obviously, they have to have those. But the ability to communicate is such an important part. It's an underdeveloped part of the quarterback position, meaning coaches helping quarterbacks on how to talk to their teammates. Because you're right, like, I think your point was really valid about how, like, you're right, that wide receiver over there, you might be able to get on him, and this wide receiver over here, if you get on him, he's going to go.
It's over.
Like, yeah, he's going to stand closer to the sideline because he just don't want to hear you. You know what I mean? Like as the lineman gets closer and closer to the top of the numbers, and he just keeps moving wider. So because he just don't want to listen to you anymore. So that's an important thing. How do you coach quarterbacks in high school and maybe middle school kids on how to understand what works for their teammates and how to communicate? Is that something you work with them on at all?
Yeah. So one thing I'm really big on my guys on is I tell them, bring a receiver out here. Like, you guys have to first lead by saying, hey man, I'm going to get extra work. I need one of you guys or two of you guys to come out here and get it with me. So that's step number one, getting them out there. Right. And once they get them out there, right, I'm coaching them. So when I was at Georgia, right, Ty Monken is obviously a receiver guy. So during special teams period, he was with McConkey. He was with George Pickens. He was with James Cook. right? Those guys, and he was helping them with routes. So it'd be like running back angle routes. It'd be George really, sinking his hips, getting in and out of the break, learning how to use his eyes and his hands, right? So a lot of the receiver stuff I didn't know because I was with Monken, like during the practice, I would just be over there just watching, learning how he's teaching them, learning kind of what he's coaching so that in case I needed to learn it, right, I kind of have those tools. So, I'll teach receivers. They do it. They usually, hey, man, dude. And I'm like, wait, is that how I talk to him? Is that how I talk to you? Do I run up and yell at you? They're like, no. I said, okay, so then learn how to talk to someone. And then again, if he's someone that, no, this guy needs to be motivated by me yelling at him, then that's a different story. So that's kind of where it's like teaching those guys kind of how to lead, right? How to go over there and really instruct it so guys can learn it instead of yelling at them. So guys are just like, oh man, this guy's yelling at me because I didn't do what he wanted me to do. And so that's kind of where you teach the guys the difference. And hey, man, if you want to be great, I know I want to be great. We have to do this so both of us can be great. Like that's a different approach. Instead of you run over there yelling at the guy saying, hey, man, you went 3 steps instead of 4. What are you doing? Like that's like, no, that's not how. No, hey, man, go 4 steps, roll out, and put the ball on your outside shoulder. I got you. Let's get it. It's that simple. It's quick. Boom, you're going. Those guys will slowly start to follow you because you're not yelling at them when they make a mistake because they know it. Same way you know it, they know it. At the end of the day, like the coaches are going to do enough yelling at the guy, especially during practice, that we need to be the guy that can still talk reason, but not have to be that like F you, all that kind of stuff.
Great point. Really, really great point.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
That continuity, right? Like that, just knowing that, right? Like, and look, it's very easy for high school guys, like to me, it's like, hey, bro, let's go to the turf. Let's throw a little bit. Like even that stuff, like knowing it, right? Like, or just like the more time, look, you referenced Tom Brady before, right? He used to fly guys to the West Coast to run through routes and stuff in the offseason and doing all that kind of stuff, right? You see these guys do that stuff a lot more behind the scenes, right? I think it's one of the one thing that isn't out on social media is these guys, doing their own thing and getting work with their QBs and stuff. That continuity just changes it, right? Like it's just that brotherhood, that little extra step of knowing, right? Like, hey, when he leans this way, I know I can let it go now and he'll be okay. Or, hey, I know when he goes on this route that I need to put this ball right here for him to really go and make that play. Those little things are what separate it, at the next level. And then kind of wins and losses. That's where you win and lose games right there. Is like knowing when and how guys work together and with each other in the ultimate team game that football is.
Yeah. And we even work situational football, right? Especially if it's like a one-on-one session. Like I'll tell guys, hey, give me your top 2 third down calls, top 2 passing third down calls, right? And so we'll work some, hey, it's a clean puck, 1, 2, 3 hitch ball. Hey, now you're on your third step. You don't have time to hitch. We're going to move you. But your guys still run the route. Now it helps guys reinforce because, again, in high school, you're not going to have a perfect pocket, right? The situational throws are going to be cover 0, right? You got to work those, but you need your receivers, not me catching it or me having a dummy over there that you can throw. I need guys running. I need your guys because that's the guys you're throwing to on Fridays. So that's another, thing that we work. We work a lot of, I work a lot of, fast movement, really, the uncomfortable throws. Because I feel like, again, if you have a pretty pocket, you should better go 1, 2, 3 hitch and make the throw. It's the off-platform throws, right? It's the one where it's cover 0 and you're slightly fading away. How do you still stay on balance and throw a good ball? It's a lot of those type of throws that, to me, when they bring their receivers, right, we can get more creative on how we work situational football. When it's just me, it's hard because I can't see and catch at the same time. So it makes it a little bit harder. So that's why I'm really big on them bringing their guys because it helps us with situational football.
That's a great point. That's a really, really great point. Because sometimes kids don't want to bring their receivers, and that's the guy they're going to throw to. And they need to bring them because that's the person ultimately that you have to build the continuity with. So while you're coaching them, they're going to get better, and the receivers are going to see that. I think that gives them confidence too. Receivers are always they're always working their routes, they're working, their hands, they're working a lot of different things within there. It's good for them to see the quarterback working on some things and not just, throwing the ball to them and out there having to catch and them running the whole time, while they drop 3 steps. You know what I mean? So
my kids be moving. We work, I'll be honest with you, especially my younger guys, we work more off platform on the run throws than we do in the pocket. We'll work some, but a lot of times it's roll right, roll left. They got 2 seconds and they can have the rush. Offense line ain't blocking. So a lot of times it's more movement. So especially when the receivers get out there, they see that, we put in that work. It's not us just sitting in the pocket. It's a lot of movement-based drills.
Awesome. Now, Malik, do you think that has anything to do with the way you how when you coaching that way, do you think it has anything to do with how you were as a player because you were more athletic and more of a, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you would be constituted as, the pocket drop back, you know what I mean, type of passer. You were athletic. You could get out and go, make those throws on, those off, those kind of off platform throws. Do you think that has anything to do with the way you coach the position itself, or that's just how it is?
No, I would just say that's just what people are looking for now. Like, I would say, even if you're a quote unquote pocket passer, right? Like, I think about pocket passer nowadays are like Trevor Lawrence, right? I would say Joe Burrow's a pocket passer. He's not like a Lamar. Kyle's not a dual threat. Like, those guys move. Even Patrick Mahomes, I would consider Patrick Mahomes a pocket passer, dual threat. But that guy moves. He's going to run. He's going to make all platform throws. So it's even if you're a pocket passer, there is no more of this, big 6'5" stone statue unless you're like the next Peyton Manning. You can think like crazy and get the ball out. Like, you got to be a different type of breed because, again, they're smart guys now. Like, I think about Andrew Luck. Like, Andrew Luck was athletic and he was smart as I don't know what, 6'4", could throw it.
And big as shit.
Huge. Like, I have a picture with me and Andrew and my head's like at his neck. So again, it's just crazy because like the game and the athletic ability of quarterbacks is getting better and better. And that's just testament to defensive ends. I think about now, you think about guys like Myles Garrett, right? JJ Watt. These guys they're freaks. Like, I remember being with Nolan at Georgia, and he was 6'3", 230, 240, running a 4.4 40. And you telling me you're going to stay in the pocket and not be able to move? There's no way.
Good luck with that one. You ain't going to have a very long career, I'll tell you that much.
So that's more where it was like, I know what they look for. Plus for us, we work a lot of working different type of throws, right? You want to work, especially like in the highlight film, like I tell kids, you want one in the pocket, right? Maybe one throw deep left, throw one deep right. Show you have some arm talent. But after those deep balls, I don't care no more. Show me you moving to your left. Show me you moving to your right. Show me you off platform. Show me you stepping up in the pocket, right, really hard and delivering a strike. Show me different types of throws. Because again, right, 90% of kids, especially if they're a D1 caliber, or even honestly below that, right, if they have a good pocket, they should be able to make those throws. But like if you go back and like I think about like our good guys like George McKitchery, right? You go watch his film. His first two throws are deep. After that, it's all off platform. It's moving to the left, moving to the right, making guys miss, right? Because that's what college football is nowadays, right? You can't expect with how good some of these defensive linemen are for 60 snaps for all 60 to be perfect pass pro. You got to make guys miss. I think that's one thing that we especially watched, the top guys this year, right? Like Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, right? Kyle McCord, all those guys. Those guys can move. They're not statues in the pocket. But to me, right, Cam Ward isn't a dual threat. He can run, but that's not what he wants to do. He wants to make guys miss and throw. And so it's like, to me, the pocket passing has definitely changed with some of the athletic ability of, quarterbacks.
What do you think is the biggest difference between guys that are successful in college and the ones that are successful in the pros? Because that's always the hardest thing. Look, these NFL teams don't get it right half the time, right? So, and they obviously have huge scouting departments. So I'm probably asking you a question that a lot of people don't know exactly what. But I'm curious in your opinion, what you think is the difference?
Yeah, I would say two things. I even think it starts at college. I just think the NFL is just it on steroids. I think it's one, mental toughness. I think that's something that a lot of young guys, even now, they really don't have. When you think about the quarterback, right, we're the only position. And I don't even know another sport outside of maybe like a solo golf or tennis where like win losses are pinned on you. Like even in basketball, right? They're not like, oh, the point guard is the reason why the win lost. That's not how basketball works. Even with baseball, right? Pitchers, yeah, but again, it's kind of equivalent, right? It's like that
pitcher might be the only position,
only one, right? That kind of holds it in like a team sport. But it's the same way with quarterbacks, where it's like, you can play decent and win and cool. You can play great and lose, and people are going to bash you. And it's like, it makes it worse now with social media. It makes it even worse with sports betting. There's kids now that are getting death threats and getting all this crazy stuff on social media because they missed a kick or, got to 200 passing yards, need to get to 210, and this guy's parlay didn't hit. So I think that side, right, understanding like how tough you have to be mentally, especially at the quarterback position, whether it's in the locker room, right, learning how to control your guys, or whether it's outside noise from reporters or social media. I think that side's big. And then secondly, this really came from Brad. And I'm really big on it. And I always say there's really 4 steps to me on being a quarterback. Number one is learning your offense. Number two is learning the defense, right? If I don't know what my offense is doing, I can't function. If I know what the defense is doing, I don't know where to go. The secondly is learning how my plays, right, match up. So like when we run certain plays, right, if you run like Y cross, right, post, cross, dig, someone in the flats, right, you know, if it's single high, you probably don't have the post. But if it's too high, now I might have it, right? So it's certain routes that you're going to know, hey, based on the coverage, these routes are dead, right? So you got to kind of know what routes match up with certain coverages. And then the last one, this is where it gets a lot of, especially young guys in the NFL, is O-line, D-line talk, right? You got to know run game, you need to know pass pro. Brad said that was the biggest difference, right? We were in college. It was very easy. Hey, we're going to go 2-3 protection. Sometimes we'd free release the back, but it was super simple. You get to the NFL, there's 25 protections. Out of the 25, 17 of the 25 are on you. You know what I mean? You got to know all the hot routes. You got to know all the, and that's the side that gets a lot of guys, is because it's not to where guys, and again, when you're a rookie, they kind of baby you, but it's not where they're trying to baby you. They're trying to give you as much as they can, because they know that, right, they can't be perfect on all the protections. They need a quarterback that can say, hey, this is the protection, this is what I see, let's adjust it here. And that's one of some of the biggest differences, guys learning how to protect themselves, because again, the defensive lines are really good, and if you can't protect yourself, it's going to be very hard to get the ball off in the league. So to me, those are the two big ones, is mental toughness, because again, some of these cities like New York, right, very tough media, Miami, very tough media, LA, very tough media, right? You go into some big cities, right? You're talking about now you're not in, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, you're in New York City, and every mistake you make, you're on the Times. So it's a lot different on, the mental toughness, and again, kind of just the mental aspect, because again, by the end of the day, when you get to the NFL, everyone's 6 foot plus, everyone's running a 4 something, everyone's freakish. It's the guys that can think and process information, are the guys that usually, are successful.
Those are some great points, man. Like really, really great points. I mean, the media side, because we live in the New York City area.
Fucking brutal. Like, there's no other way to put it. It's brutal.
You have one bad game. I mean, you have one bad game, and not a lot of quarterbacks can handle it. It takes a special quarterback, as evidenced by the New York teams stink every year right now. So,
I mean, look, you look at the guy like who was the last guy to be successful in the New York for a long time, like Eli Manning. Like,
and what's crazy about that was that when he was at the Giants, I'm not saying all Giants fans, but a good amount of Giants fans wanted him gone.
Everybody. Nobody liked him. Nobody wanted him here.
Why? Like, he's the only guy to really beat Tom Brady. Like what do you mean? Now, again, he didn't play the best throughout, but like, he did his thing. He always was successful, and so I always say, grass isn't greener on the other side. Sometimes it is, but not always. So.
It's at the end of his career, they were benching him for who did they bench him for? Geno
Listen,
Smith?
he lost that whole streak of most games started.
They were benching him for somebody. I don't even remember who it was. No, it wasn't, because Geno Smith was like, they buried Geno Smith on the depth chart. Geno Smith was actually pretty good for the Jets, and they just harassed him.
Look, you look at the Jets, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, right? Like, they went through, Brett Favre was here for 1 year, and like towards the end of his career, and they crushed him. He goes to Minnesota and like wins another couple years. It's a hard mark. The position is hard enough without all of that extra on it. And look, guys like Eli, who when I look at, like, you almost like didn't think he had a pulse, right? Like, emotions were never too high, never too low, just kind of middle of the road type dudes. You never saw him in that big media market. It's why like Derek Jeter was successful in New York, right? Because he was just a guy that kind of like did his thing across the board. It's a very difficult place to play. I mean, look at Miami. Like, Miami's tough as hell too. The Dolphins, like, who's the last guy that was a steady Eddie and had them winning on a streak? Dan Marino? Like, what are we talking? Like, you know what I mean? Like, Tua gets crushed all the time.
Oh, Tua gets crushed all the time. All the time.
It's
listen.
That's why they're so high paid.
That's true. That's why you are high paid like that. And if you survive it, like Eli did, then they bring you back and they put you in the Ring of Honor and they celebrate you after they were yelling at you from.
And I think he's a finalist for the Hall of Fame. So
absolutely. Well, listen, I have to jump off. I have to go into another one here. Is Coach still there? Or we lose? Oh,
right.
I'll let you guys continue, okay? And then you can wrap it up, Derek.
Yeah, it's all good. We'll wrap it up. All right, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right.
Hey, man. Like I said, I know you got to go do your thing, so I don't want to keep you too long. I appreciate you.
You're good.
Taking
I just wanted to pull in and grab some food real quick.
You're good, buddy. Listen, like I said, I don't want to hold you up. Look, I appreciate you taking the time. Some of the points were absolutely phenomenal, excellent. Hearing it from a guy who did it at a high level. And also, look, like I think you have a unique perspective, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? In terms of you played at a high level at a place where, look, dude, University of Miami quarterback is very much like a New York media market in terms of, like you might be more in the limelight than the Miami Dolphins starting quarterback. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to those things, because everybody's always going to compare you to the tradition and the history of those guys there itself. I mean, look in the guy that you played for in Mark Richt, right? Like he was a Miami QB. So you knew you were being held to a higher standard than everybody else in general, right? Like I'll give him his little flowers. He might've been third on the depth, but he was still there,
that was a good roster he was on too. That was a good roster.
Dude, ridiculous, right? And look, I'm biased because I've always been a Miami fan. Maybe not as much anymore because ever since they went to Adidas, like, I don't know, I think it's just changed everything, dude. Like, but I'm a little awkward when it comes to that. But like I said, I want to thank you again for jumping on and talking some real ball. Look, we've had a lot of guys on this podcast that have talked about it, guys that have played at a high level, guys that are coaching at a high level and doing all these other kind of things. I think you said a lot of things that we haven't really heard before in terms of, what it really takes to be great at a high level. Talking about situational football, third down, red zone, like those types of things, the intangibles that go into being a QB, which in my eyes, is the toughest position in football to play collectively, right? Because like you said, there's so much off the field stuff that needs to be taken care of in order to be successful. There's so much work when it comes to, teammates and things like that. And then to also have all of that pressure on your shoulders, like you referenced as well. Like it's one of the only sports where like wins and losses happens with you and you're getting blamed for it. Wins and losses, like it's your fault. That's what it is. And you're in the limelight all the time. And everybody knows who the QB is, no matter look, and everybody knows, and I'm talking QB in general, right? Which I think is why youth parents automatically say, I want my kid to be the QB because they don't even know anything about half the other positions, dude. Like they have no other fucking clue. So I think that's a big piece to it too. It's like, oh, my kid will be the quarterback. And it's like, well, what other fucking name all the positions? They don't even have a fucking clue. So you know what I'm saying?
And usually with quarterbacks too, they have the most lucrative contracts. That's what a lot of people look at as well.
Everybody wants the money, bro. Like, look, who did I was just listening to Cam Jordan. He was on Julian Edelman's podcast, and he was just talking about money positions, dude. And he's like, look, I make one thing, those guys make that. That's just what it is. It's how it works. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to, like, I was an O lineman in high school. I was like, hell no, I ain't playing O line. Like D line's where money's at. I'm gonna go be a D lineman. Like guys literally have this perspective and track what they want to do based off of that shit at a very young age, especially if mommy and daddy are pushing them to be like, hey, like they might not tell their kid, I'm pushing you to be the QB so you can get me out of here and we can get bigger houses and better cars. You know what I'm saying? But that is 100% part of that puzzle.
Well, nowadays it's changed because, like, I mean, when both of us was growing up, right, you really had to make it to the NFL. Now there's 18-year-olds making millions. You can graduate.
Malik, listen, think about what you could have made in the portal.
Oh, listen,
like,
I'm trying to slap the NCAA because they got that lawsuit infringement. I don't know who sued them, but they won that new NIL arrangement because, again, a lot of guys from like my class, we never got,
because you were right around that. You were right in that, like, you know what I mean? Like you were right in that transition.
Yeah,
you were
right in some stuff
transition era.
Yeah, because we had some stuff where it was like I know I was on like billboards for the Orange Bowl. I was on the bus.
Yeah, you were, dude. Think about how many jerseys were sold with your number on them, bro.
They even did something where it was like the ESPN Hulu bundle that I was on. They had like my orange jersey, me throwing the ball. My mom actually sent it to me.
Damn right.
There's a couple different stuff that I'm trying.
Thank you, Mom. Like, she's on it. She knows what her baby was on.
Yeah, I know you guys got the money, so I'm gonna need a little bit of it.
Well, listen, and look, and I'm just like, look, a lot of these guys, and for how fast this whole thing has happened, Malik, and this could be a whole nother podcast for another 6 hours talking about this shit. You know what I mean? Like how fast this whole thing has transitioned and moved. Just like the numbers and the money and all that stuff, it's kind of gone like, above and beyond really, really fast. But, like I said, I appreciate you taking the time. We might have lost Coach right now, but like I said, appreciate you taking the time. A lot of unique perspective. I wouldn't say unique. Well, I don't want it to sound like, excellent. Let's put it that way, right? A lot of good information from a high level guy who not only played at the highest level, but also, he was coaching at Georgia, and that's the team that is kind of where it is right now. So, and I think we'll sign off with that, and we'll end with that. We'll be back Friday. We'll be sitting down with Rowan University head coach Pat Ruley, who we had on back in I want to say it's late spring, early summer, when he was just transitioning, kind of had just gotten to Rowan. So we will now sit down with him after going through a camp, his first season there, in which they had a lot of success, which they haven't had in a long time, and kind of give it a state of the union in terms of Rowan football and Division III football and kind of how he's doing things there. So we'll look forward to that. So that being said, appreciate all of you guys watching on a regular basis. Like I said, I hope we are giving you things and some tidbits and just information in general. I hope you enjoy the show as much as we enjoy doing it. Feel free to reach out to any one of us, Dave or myself, if you have any topics that you think you would like to hear or talk about or things of that nature, or any individuals that you think would be good to come on. We're always looking for that stuff. Look, I think you've seen that we'll put anybody on this show, damn it. Awesome, because I think that's what I love about this platform itself, is we're willing to talk different topics all the time. So that being said, hope everybody has a good day, and we will see you Friday.